If you like literary fiction that blends sharp social commentary with gripping survival suspense, or you're interested in stories that explore immigration and identity and the deep roots of cultural heritage, then today's book just might be for you. Today, I'll be reviewing The Jaguar's Children by John Vaillant. Welcome to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and today we are taking a look at one of John Vaillant's books because I have actually read all the others and I wanted to finally finish off the list. I actually first came across John Vaillant's works last year when his book Fireweather was a Pulitzer Prize finalist for general nonfiction. That book I thought was a masterful exploration of not just wildfires but climate change and the human cost of environmental disasters. You can check out my review, whichever side the link will show up. I just found his writing style to be very compelling. So I kept going and I read all of his books except for this one. So before The Jaguar's Children, I read Fireweather, obviously. I had also read The Golden Spruce, which tells the story of an unusual tree and the logger turned activist who cut it down, as well as The Tiger, which follows the real life story of a man-eating tiger in Russia's Far East and the team trying to stop it. All three of those books mixed history and science and just this gripping narrative storytelling in a way that makes them feel like page-turner thrillers, even though they were nonfiction. So I actually saved The Jaguar's Children for last because it is his only straight-up novel. And I was really curious to see how he would handle this very real, very powerful, broader topic of immigration and heritage and identity and all of that, but to put it in a fiction form. And given his ability to weave deep investigative storytelling with very vivid and immersive prose, I was hopeful that his transition to fiction would work. And I must say that it was a very powerful read. It will have you thinking about a lot of different things by the end of this book. Let me give you a summary. At its core, The Jaguar's Children is a harrowing survival story that follows Héctor, who is a young man from Oaxaca, Mexico, who along with his friend César attempts to cross the United States-Mexico border in a water truck. However, something goes wrong and the smugglers abandon them, leaving Héctor trapped inside the sealed overheating tank with no way out. With only his dying phone and a fading signal, Héctor begins sending voice messages to an American contact in hopes that someone will hear his story before it's too late. And not just Héctor's, César gets hurt pretty early on in the book, and so you also find Héctor essentially trying to speak for César as well. As Héctor's desperate situation unfolds, we learn about his life in Mexico, his family, his indigenous Zapotec roots, and the circumstances that forced him to leave his home. Through his memories, Vaillant paints a vivid picture of Oaxaca, its beauty, but also its struggles and the pressures of globalization that push people away from their ancestral lands. The novel is written in a very claustrophobic first-person narrative, which makes Héctor's situation feel very immediate and real, and you feel his panic as well as his thirst and his slow, creeping realization that help might not come. I'd also say the book is more than just that thriller element of will they survive. It is very much a meditation on identity and exploring the questions of belonging and the forces that drive people to leave behind everything that they know. Superficially, The Jaguar's Children is a story about immigration, about the dangers of crossing the border illegally, and the ruthless exploitation of migrants. But on a deeper level, it's asking bigger questions like, what does it mean to leave not just your country, but your village and your people and your entire heritage? Or what unseen economic and political forces are pushing people away from their homes? And how do identity and ancestry and cultural history shape a person's decisions? Héctor isn't just leaving Mexico, he's leaving generations of history behind. Generations of complicated history behind. We're talking not just his indigenous roots, but also his Mexican ancestry, which of course gives you this longer question of colonialism and the Spanish Empire. And there's just so much that he is grappling with, and there's so much that he has to leave behind. And Vaillant makes that loss feel very weighty and very significant. And the novel challenges the reader to consider the human cost of migration beyond the headlines and statistics. I would say that Vaillant's nonfiction is already deeply narratively driven, so it's no surprise that his fiction is just as engaging. His writing is atmospheric as well as lyrical and emotionally raw. I was anxious to see how he would handle a novel, and I was not disappointed. I I was very impressed, to say the least. I would also say, similar to his other books, there is certainly a word of warning in what he is writing about. And again, he is taking an individual's experience and he is doing an excellent job at letting it be a stand-in for much larger groups of people and forces that are at work. The Jaguar's Children is intense and thought-provoking, but also beautifully written. Who is this book for? Well, if you're looking for a book that blends literary fiction with social commentary and suspense, this one is definitely worth your time. However, be prepared, it's not an easy read for that reason. It's intense, it's heartbreaking, and at times it can be a bit overwhelming as you consider everything that this book is implying or suggesting or outright saying at times. But I would also say that's exactly what makes it such a powerful book. I think this book is for readers who enjoy that literary fiction with a strong social theme, or who are interested in specifically immigration stories that go well beyond the surface as they spend the whole book in flashbacks and not just this moment of crisis for them, but trying to help us understand why they are in the situation that they're in. I think that fans of Vaillant's nonfiction would want to see how he handles fiction. I think that they generally would be impressed. At least I was. Who is this book not for? Well, I'd say readers looking for a fast-paced action story. This is much more introspective and character-driven. Even with this very intense and scary moment of their lives being threatened because they've been abandoned, you still have to be prepared for a whole lot of flashbacks. That is really the point behind this. The real question of this book is not, do they get out of this situation and do they get out of the desert? That's really not what it's seeking. It's seeking to have us ask questions about why they were driven to do this and what is facilitating this situation that they're in. I'd also say that this book is not for those who prefer a more traditional narrative structure, as the novel is fragmented and it's definitely told through these various messages that are being sent. So there's definitely a lot of going back and forth and some jumping around as you're trying to understand what exactly is going on. Those are just my thoughts about this book. Please let me know in the comments if you've read The Jaguar's Children or any of John Vaillant's other books. Please let me know how you think this stacks up, what you think about a powerful nonfiction writer having this piece of fiction, or vice versa. Maybe his ability to write quality fiction is something that has made him such a powerful nonfiction author. I think this is maybe his second or third book. So he had done some nonfiction, then he wrote this, and he has since had more nonfiction since then. I don't know which is having a greater impact on the other, but I would certainly say that I have found all of his works to be quite interesting. But please let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and until next time, keep those pages turning.